So we are fortunate to have a dynamic duo today. As you heard a little bit more about them, we have Lisa Bounds, who is a co-founder and principal product marketing manager at Epicor. Years ago, when we very first started, I've been trying to remember his name. One of our very first Launchpad members went to work at Epicor. I'm gonna be struggling with this. I'll be still employed. And Ellen Cox, uh, her partner in crime, also a co-founder and senior product marketing manager in AI at Epicor. If I've gotten any of this incorrect, I hope you will correct me. The series, this is a three-part series. You are going to be present here for part one. The series title is Supercharge. Oh, as you see, your job search with AI. Build, optimize, and own your story. And the first part is going to be build your assistant and your first drafts. And just to tell you a little bit more about their background, Lisa is a product marketing leader and communication strategist with deep experience spanning corporate tech, education, and startup innovation. Currently principal product marketing manager at Epicor, she's known for crafting clear, compelling narratives that drive growth and engagement. Lisa has led global product launches at Dell, driven messaging innovation in emerging tech, and co-founded co-co.LabX, a collective that helps professionals navigate career transitions with clarity and confidence. Her approach blends analytical rigor with human-centered insight, all in service of strategy that moves people forward. I so love that. Ellen is a senior AI product marketer and co-founder of whatever co.labx, a collective focused on helping professionals navigate career transitions with clarity and creativity. Sounds familiar. At Epicor, she leads AI marketing strategy across global product lines, and she's passionate about making complex tech like artificial intelligence more accessible and actionable for job seekers. With past roles at X2, Bonterra, and Dun & Bradstreet, Ellen brings deep experience in digital strategy, content innovation, and cross-functional leadership. A former educator at Bailey Middle School, she's known for her clear communication, approachable style, and commitment to helping others grow. Cannot wait to hear what they have to say. Let's give a warm welcome to Ellen and Lisa.
Awesome. Thank you, Kathy. It's nice to be here today. We're super excited to share some of our knowledge. So I hope that everyone can see the slides that are up on the screen share. We will pause as we're going through this presentation and definitely make sure there are opportunities for questions. So don't be afraid to send it through in the chat or speak up when we kind of hit one of those pause points. And we're looking forward to diving in. So I'll let Lisa kick us off.
All right, awesome. Hey, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me okay. So starting off, there we are, looking super fresh. Again, a little of our backstory. You probably heard Ellen and I met teaching at Bailey Middle School, teaching right next door to each other. Ellen was teaching math classes and I was teaching English classes and some really weird classes, like some science electives where we went outside and did some nature journals, and then also mythology and all the crazy electives. So we got to know each other really well because we were in the trenches. And then, you know, we also both had a love of marketing. And so we found ourselves back together again. But we also recently navigated the difficulty of a layoff, and we know what it is to be out here in the tech landscape and navigating what is definitely one of the more difficult time periods. It is rough out there. But we've also got a real love of AI, and we've seen it totally streamline our job searches and just really make what's normally a very tedious thing a lot easier. And we want to share that knowledge with everyone we can because it really made it so much easier for us. And during that journey, we just realized, you know, we really liked helping each other. We had some other friends that were in this space also navigating layoffs. And we just kind of started building a community around us, and we wanted to keep that going. And that's how CoLabX was born, to help build community, collaboration, cooperation, etc. So with that, let's dive in. So the things we'll be going through today is we'll be building an AI assistant, working on some prompting, and hopefully have the opportunity for you guys to get hands-on and ask questions. The good news here is whether or not you have a ChatGPT Plus account or not, you're still going to be able to use these actionable insights. If you do have a ChatGPT Plus account, you're going to be able to set up an AI assistant, and you're going to be able to basically have this to where you can automate a lot of things, and you don't have to constantly upload stuff. But if you don't have the ChatGPT Plus account, you have the free account, you're still going to be able to do these things. You just may have to upload stuff more often. So that's the good news here is no matter what, you're going to be able to walk away with things that you can use. And you'll be able to use these things regardless if you're in ChatGPT, Co-Pilot, Gemini, Perplexity, whatever your AI flavor, these should be things that you can use. But in particular, we're going to be working in ChatGPT today, but just know that these are tools that you can use across various AIs, whatever your favorite one happens to be. Okay, let's dive in. So I think first of all, we have to upfront acknowledge that sometimes the job search, and pardon my language, can be a little bit of a hellscape. There's the endless resume tailoring, which can take forever, the time consuming cover letters, or the really fun part that I just love is you're going to have a cover letter, you got to like customize your resume, and you're going through and you're doing all of this. And then you're like, oh, wonderful. I've got my cover letter ready. And then you go in and they didn't ask for it after all. And you're like, gosh, why did I spend all that time on it? And then you have your customized resume and you go to do all the things. And then you click in and oh my gosh, next slide, it's Workday software. Don't we love that, everyone? Because now you've just got to re-enter everything you already did by hand anyway. And it just makes us all want to run our heads into a wall. So Workday, not a lot we can do about that. The suck is just going to suck. But all those other front-end tasks, the cover letter, the resume, the networking messages, all of that stuff, determining if we're even a fit, we can streamline those things. We can make those things faster so that we can maximize the amount of applications we get out, so that we can maximize the network outreach that we get, so that we are spending less time on those things and hitting more numbers, hitting more applications in the pipeline. So that's what we're going to work on. All right. So let's go to that. So within ChatGPT, what I'm going to start off with is showing you how to build your own AI assistant. So if you have ChatGPT Plus, in the top right-hand corner, there's a little thing where it has your picture and it'll say something like, you'll click on it and it'll say My GPTs. When you click on that, you can go and click Create a GPT. Now, when you do that, you're going to get a screen like this. And over here on the left side, you see all these different prompts and areas where you can upload stuff. This is the information that I put in here. First of all, I named it. I said, this is going to be for applying for marketing roles. The little icon up there, that's actually connected to Dolly. You can just click it and it's going to automate a cool little graphic for you. You can keep hitting the button until you get one you like. Then you give it a description. I said this is going to be for optimizing resumes and cover letters and networking messages to best position me for whatever role it is. And then I get into the instructions. And this is where it gets really detailed, because if you're familiar with AI at all, you know it's all about the prompting. So we're going to get into the nitty gritty there. And if you're wondering what this space is over here on the right, this is actually a sandbox so that you can test everything out before you publish your GPT. So would you pause here, Ellen? So
Yep.
Right here, this is the prompt that I build out. This is what I like to call, this is the brain of the assistant that you're building. So in my case, I was targeting marketing roles, specifically product marketing or any kind of marketing role that was really focused on communication strategy. So if you look here, I've said, imagine you're a creative marketing strategist. Analyze my background, experience, strengths, and colleague recommendations to craft compelling, tailored materials for applying to marketing roles. Your responses should reflect my marketing expertise, highlighting creativity, storytelling, and strategic thinking. When reviewing job descriptions, emphasize how my unique skills and achievements align with the role's requirements. Use warm, engaging language to ensure my application stands out. When reviewing these against job postings, focus on integrating dynamic keywords and marketing related terminology to optimize for applicant tracking systems. Okay. I know there's a lot of debate out there on ATS. There's a whole faction of people that say, hey, ATS is not a thing. It's not, weeding out your stuff. Nobody's, that's not a thing. Then there's a whole nother faction that says, yes, it is. That is happening. So my thought is let's play in the middle and let's go ahead and just optimize in case that is the case. So I've had recruiters say, the ATS is, nothing is weeding your stuff out. And then I've had a bunch of other recruiters say, yes, it is. So optimize is the way to go. Better safe than sorry. So I set this up so it can think like the ATS. So while crafting cover letters, weave in a narrative showcasing my strategic impact and creativity without explicitly mentioning Clifton strengths. Now, you may wonder what Clifton strengths are. A lot of us during the course of our career have taken different assessments like the Big Five or Clifton Strengths Assessment, which is like through Gallup. It's also called Strength Finder. You may have taken other types of assessments like that are well known in your professional community. You can integrate those in here. I wanted it to highlight mine because some of my top strengths were things like strategic, ideation, achiever, learner, and input, which really plays well into product marketing. But I don't want it to be like, I have achiever strength, because that sounds weird. But I want it to talk to those attributes. And you might go, well, how does it know all this stuff? That's coming next. So I put that into the prompt. Instead, reflect my strengths through storytelling and examples. Help me craft networking messages that are personable, concise, and tailored to establish meaningful connections. Okay, so that's the brain. That tells it, here's all the things you're going to be doing within this GPT, within this assistant. So go ahead and let's keep going, Ellen. Okay. So it goes ahead, and then beneath that, we have like a conversation starter, just like your greeting. Now, here's where I have those things that support the prompt. I have attached my resume. I've attached my Strength Finder results. So that's where it's pulling in those strengths I was talking about. It's getting them from the actual report. Then I also took my colleague recommendations from LinkedIn. I copied all of them and saved them as a PDF and uploaded them, so that it draws from actual like descriptions colleagues have given about me, and it puts that stuff into my cover letters and things like that to kind of better position me for those roles and make it not so generic when I'm reaching out. And then you go ahead and click all those buttons so you have all those capabilities. As things evolve, you'll be ready. So then I can go over and I can start kind of testing it. I can drop into the sandbox like a job description and, see if it works, see if it fits, see if it's working. And it does. Now up here in the top right corner, it says update for me. That's because I've already built mine out. If it's the first time you're doing it, it's going to say publish. And you'll publish it and it'll say, do you want it just for you? Do you want to share it to the entire world? You don't want to do that since it's got really personal stuff. So you just want to say publish just for me. And that's kind of what you do there. So let's go to the next one, Ellen. So this is the brain of it. Okay.
Awesome. Cool. So what I'm going to do is build a little bit on what Lisa was just sharing, and actually, I don't know where it went for a second there. I'm going to actually start to talk a little bit just about best practices as you are crafting those prompts, whether you are using a custom GPT like Lisa was just showing with the paid account, or if you're going to do similar to what I did. Some of you may have seen within the chat, I actually didn't build out a custom GPT. I just made a set of prompts and I figured out a sequence for myself in my job search where I found, hey, if I use this set of prompts consistently, it was working pretty well for me. So at the end of the day, and I've kind of noted here, I had this kind of meme from Big Bang Theory about like, let's put on our thinking caps, right? So a lot of times when you were working with AI, a lot of folks have kind of acted like, like you just can kind of tune out, use whatever, etc. You have to be really strategic as you're approaching using AI in terms of crafting the information that went in there. And I loved some of the examples that Lisa just had within kind of that building the custom GPT brain, so to speak, for your job search, because a lot of it adheres to best practices. So the first best practice is really around always invite AI to the table. So what we mean by that is anytime you're taking on something, it's kind of good to sit and think about like, could AI help me with this? Yes or no? How could it help, etc. You do want to make sure that your data is staying secure. So I know that Lisa was mentioning things about like, as you're making something like a custom GPT, that you are not necessarily sharing it out with everyone so that people aren't producing materials using your information. There are things you can do within ChatGPT. I believe on paid accounts, they have said like, hey, your data is secure. You can do things where it'll be almost like incognito tab within Chrome browsers where you can say, hey, I want to do this session, but I want you to forget things, etc. It's really up to you of like, take that time, look at how they're using the data, determine what you're comfortable with, and also don't give it anything that you wouldn't necessarily want potentially getting recorded somewhere. So for example, I would never go in and give ChatGPT my bank account information. Outside of that, it's good practice to just make sure you're not becoming reliant. Some of you have probably seen at certain points of time on LinkedIn, you'll see things where people will be posting about like ChatGPT is down today or this AI is down today. You need to still be able to function and do these things without AI. It's really looking at this as a tool that can help you speed up the process and go faster. The next best practice is really around staying as the human in the loop. And what we mean by that is not just accepting outputs that come from tools like ChatGPT outright. It's really taking the time to think about them critically, making sure that you're adhering to good ethics, that you are using good judgment, that you're looking for inaccuracies. The thing that I always kind of talk to people about is like, get comfortable working with AI, but don't get dazzled by it, so to speak. So a really good example that I can speak to is I was starting kind of the job hunting process and using AI to help speed up kind of within that process of how can I have it help me draft cover letters or optimize my resume faster. At the very beginning, it was actually just blatantly making up work experience that I did not have. And so that creates potential problems where if I had not been paying attention as the human in the loop and just taking the outputs and submitting them in for job applications, I could have ended up in a scenario where I'm getting on the line and interviewing for something, and the experience that's on my resume isn't actually accurate or true to what I can do. So you want to make sure that you are reviewing and editing everything that comes out. You can also use some of those test scenarios to kind of refine prompts as you were going through. And I'll show you an example in just a moment of how I did that. The other things, and this is one you'll notice, Lisa had done this in her previous example. You want to treat AI like a person, but you need to tell it what kind of person it is. So you're really setting the context by giving it some sort of a specific persona, telling it what specific problems you need it to help you tackle. So a lot of times what that is giving it a role to play or telling it how you need it to behave as it's giving you feedback. Some of the things that I've done within my job search was telling it that I needed it to behave like a ATS system to score my resume for how well does my resume perform, and then give me specific feedback on how I can have it improve. Or you'll see in some of my upcoming examples, asking it to behave as the hiring manager for a particular role. We'll get into in some of the future upcoming sessions how you can actually use this type of telling it what type of person it is to actually prep for job interviews as well and anticipate questions that may come up in your interview. And then the last two pieces that I've got, one of them is just when in doubt, chunk it out. And I kind of use that phrasing for myself to kind of remember you don't always want to throw all of the problems or tasks that you need all at once. Sometimes you can find if you give it too many things to do, you can end up overloading where you're not going to get the same level of quality out of the outputs that you necessarily wanted. So sometimes what I've done is I'll try to break those requests up into smaller kind of discrete steps that I can go through and kind of, hey, first I'm going to ask it to do this. Then I'm going to ask it to do this other thing next. A lot of that is sometimes referred to as prompt chaining, where you're basically taking the output from one thing, feeding it back through, giving it some additional direction, so it is refining things as it goes. The last point here is just assume this is the worst AI that you will ever use. It's important to keep in mind AI is constantly being updated. It's constantly changing. I actually even had an example, and I haven't gone back in a while to change it, but I actually tried to set up AI to notify me of job alerts as they were coming online and activating within the market. I actually didn't have great luck with that. So it was an experiment that necessarily didn't go well.
I'm going to jump in on that too, Ellen, because I just want to say, was it the tasks?
Yes, it was my task to
Yeah,
like
I tried
scan
that
through
too.
the
It
job
was not
postings
good.
and notify me, and it just didn't work. But I've kept
Yeah.
those prompts, and I periodically go back to try and test again to see like maybe it's going to work better at this point, or I can continue to refine it and see if it starts working a little bit better. I think at the point of time that I was starting to do that, ChatGPT had just launched that functionality, so I'm probably due for another test soon.
Yeah.
So we're going to go ahead and start to build on this. And we'll just talk about applying this using some specific examples. So I went through and actually took some of the prompts that I had fed into ChatGPT while I was in the process of job searching. So this first one was actually for kind of the first prompt that I used. Within kind of my sequence of prompts, where I would always start by having ChatGPT ingest the information from the job description and asking it to really make sure that it's remembering. So I've listed some of those best practices along the side here. If we start to think in the context and looking at this example that I've pulled together, you can see first within here, right? Treat it like a person. You can see that I'm telling it specifically, like, hey, I want you to play the part of the hiring manager for this particular role. Within here, I'm also telling it specifically, and I didn't highlight this, I thought I had, help me make my resume and cover letter perfect for this job. So I'm giving it a specific task that I'm going to want it eventually longer term to do. But in particular for this first step, I'm telling it I want it to remember the name of the company, the role, and basically help me to start updating those materials that I've referenced. I'm going to be asking it to help me with is my resume and cover letter. The other piece of this is that when in doubt, chunk it out piece, right? So you can see I'm not asking it right off the bat, like, hey, ingest this job description, give me a resume, and give me a cover letter. I took an approach of really making sure that I was building on this. I think one other thing I would add within here, and we were speaking to this within IMs. So Lisa actually built her custom GPT to be able to apply these things. I just used a Google Doc. So you can, if you want to save time for yourself, take the time, build out a custom GPT that can do these things. But if you are finding like, hey, I've just got this set of 5 different prompts that seem to work pretty well, and I don't mind doing the copying and pasting, I can go pretty quick. There's nothing wrong with doing that either. So if you don't have a paid ChatGPT account, you can still use those things. What I did, I'm actually just I'm gonna deviate for just a second, and I'll pull it open to just show you all what my document actually looked like so that you can see it. Oop, if it will go into full screen. So this is actually what my document looked like. I just did like an AI prompts for my job search, and I started just building out prompts where I would test and optimize them over time and just organize them in this space. And you can see I put like a little skull and crossbones emoji for the one that was not working for myself when I tested it. But there's other things within here where I was asking it to act as an ATS, check the resume for compatibility, job description intake. That's the example that I just had up on the screen. So if you don't have a paid GPT, paid ChatGPT or other paid AI account, there's still ways that you can work with these tools and these prompts to kind of make this work for you.
Yeah, and Ellen, the only thing I would say there really, and I put it in the chat because someone asked that, the biggest difference between the AI assistant and this is it's just a matter of convenience, really. With the assistant, it's just when you go in, you just say, hey, am I a fit for this job? And you drop the job description in and it'll analyze. And then, you can say, okay, great. Now adjust my resume. So you're just not attaching things. That's the only difference between having the AI assistant and not. So it's just like how much do you want to have to attach things? That's it. So it's a matter of convenience, as most things are. So
Yeah.
as Ellen's saying, you can totally get away with not doing that. So it's good.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. So I'm going to actually go to the next iteration. So after this initial prompt where I've told it to play the part of the hiring manager, I give it the job description. I tell it like, hey, eventually I'm going to have you use this information to help me draft a resume and cover letter. The next step that I was going through is you can see it confirmed that it's absorbed that job description. This particular role that I pulled an example from, there was a digital marketing role open at University Federal Credit Union in Austin. So basically, then I went ahead and fed it the next prompt, giving it my resume, asking it to go ahead and review this and start to provide feedback. So if we start to kind of think about that again, right, I'm telling to review the resume as if it was the hiring manager. So we're telling it what kind of person it is. We're giving it a specific job where we're telling it we need it to provide feedback. Tell me how well it aligns with the job description, suggest specific improvements to tailor it accordingly. Now, the other piece of this, and remember I was telling you, you may have to do some experimentation. You can see within here on this next section that I actually had to tell it, like, I do not want to lie about my experience. So I kept finding it was making things up. So I had to start telling it, like, you need to stay within the parameters of what is already within this resume. So we can rephrase things to try and hit keywords in ATS. We could bump up to show like, hey, this experience more prominently, but we're not making up experience here because I don't want to negatively impact my integrity as a professional. So what we're going to do actually next is we're going to kind of turn this into a work session for a little bit, and we'll come back at the end. And I guess I'll pause to see if anyone has additional questions that haven't come up in the chat. But we want to give some time for folks to get hands-on testing some of these tools out, where you can do things of like feeding in your resume and a job description to see if you're a good fit for a role. You can also ask it to draft up a personalized cover letter. We've actually got a worksheet that we're going to just send through, and let me go ahead and grab the link. I'm going to send this through to the meeting chat, and you all can bookmark this, hang on to it. That this is for session one, where we've actually given you some prompts that you can go off of to start with. And again, don't be afraid to make a copy of this to like your own Google Drive, download it, etc. And feel free to experiment. I think I'm going to actually go back a slide or two. So one thing that I was going to call out in doing this, and as we send these prompts through, a lot of these prompts I actually initially got from another friend. So she had been using AI in her job search. She passed some of these off to me. I started taking them and made them my own. So you can always experiment. Sometimes I would run a prompt through, decide like, I don't know if I like the output that came out for that one. Maybe I'm going to tweak it and add this additional information or context, and then I would resubmit and see what kind of output do I get the second time around. So you can feel free to kind of take this information that we're about to send through and make it your own. I will go ahead. I'm going to hit this through. But what we can go ahead and do is we'll just kind of back off and let folks have maybe like the next 10 to 15 minutes or so to kind of start working through this, and we can be open, available for questions as folks start to kind of work through this. And then we'll kind of start to regroup at the end for any learnings, observations that folks have noticed as they're kind of working through this.
Ladies, this is just a suggestion. Might it be a little bit more helpful if maybe somebody in the group here would be willing to share their resume with you at a role, and so you can kind of do this live on the fly so they can see what they're, so if one of you is willing to reach out to, I would say Lisa, let's just say Lisa, and upload, your resume to her private. You can do it privately, or you can do it in the whole group chat. I don't care. And then find a role that you've been looking at so that they have both of those things to work from, just like you would if you were with JobScan.
Yes, and I've been seeing some questions in the chat about like, do you do this and then do job scan? So I just wanted to tell you my experience. Like I had used job scan once or twice and it was interesting and I liked it. And but once I started doing this, I stopped using that because I taught this to act as an ATS. I would prompt it to do that. And I would say, give me a score as if you are an ATS. And so it would tell me hey, based on your experience, you're scoring like 75%. And so if I was really interested in the role, I would go, oh my gosh, I've got to customize this some more. And it would tell me, hey, here's some keywords you should really try to include. You also should talk more about your experience in this section of your resume. It also is asking for this, and you don't have this included. And so I would go back and look at my resume and recraft, and then I would upload the new version. I'd say, okay, I've made some revisions. Can you now rescore and tell me how it looks now? And then it would rescore it. And if I was between 85 and 90, I would just go ahead and apply. And that's kind of been my rule of thumb using this. Anytime I score between 85 and 90%, I just go for it. But I stopped using JobScan as soon as I found this was working for me. And I know Ellen and I both were getting interviews off of this process. Final round interviews, like, yeah. So everything that we're going to be sharing with you through this series has moved the needle for us.
Awesome. Are there any questions?
Anybody want to be a guinea pig?
If someone wants to send a resume example through, we can do it. I'm also happy to.
Barry says he will. Okay. Barry, if you want to drop something, or I think you can you send attachments in the chat? I don't know.
Yes, you can. And if you want to, if Barry, you can either put it for everybody to see it, or you can click on the little arrow down and find Lisa directly. But then
maybe do Ellen because she's sharing screen. So
okay. Screen. That would make sense. I was trying to make it a little bit less on her, but that would make a lot of sense.
I can help Ellen and I can tag team talk through it. But
I'm trying to find out how to share it. How do I share it with Ellen?
When you go into the chat, it says to everyone, but if you click on everyone, you should see Ellen's name and you can click just her.
And I can try to find you, Barry, and just ping you directly so you can just respond back to me.
That would make sense.
Ooh, there's a lot of you. There we go. Okay, Barry, I just IM'd you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And I just saw a request about using the free version. So let's actually just back this out and I'm going to just log out and let me see if I can get to it and do a free version. Yeah. So we should be able to do a free version here. And I'm going to use that set of prompts that I had. In the meantime,
I was going to say also, Ellen, even if you if it doesn't let you do this, if you just do it from a regular ChatGPT window versus like an AI, it'll still work.
Oh, okay. See, I'm learning things today too.
You guys, I was laid off for 8 months. I had a lot of time to spend with this. ChatGPT and I spent some quality time together.
If you don't mind, I'd like to make a comment. One time I was writing a biography and I wanted to know what the limits were. And I put in 40 different biographies from a website and said, write a new biography for my client based on these, same style, whatever. And ChatGPT, it took about 10 minutes. And then I said to ChatGPT, did I strain the limits? And they said, yes, 40 pages is pretty much our limit. Mm. And so the other thing I just wanted to mention is I would not be afraid to put in 3 or 4 different documents in one prompt because, I'm constantly working for different people. And so I don't want to train the AI assistant just to me. And so I'll put in the job, the job description and the resume. And then the third thing that I want to mention is that I just do stream of consciousness. I'll say, write me a great cover letter that's warm and inspiring, and it should have these ideas in it. I've attached the jobs, the resume and the job description, and they take your stream of consciousness ideas and just write it up so beautifully. It just knocks you over when you see your ideas written like that.
The other really great thing too is you can train it on your writing style by giving it samples to save. So if everything you're describing, you can do what you're doing now, which is uploading it. And or if you do do the assistant, which is the thing I was showing at the front, on that back end, the brain, as I call it, you can upload your own examples of your writing. And then in that, the prompting area, you say, make sure they follow the style of my writing. And then you have those attachments. And then everything you do from then on out, it'll match your style. Cause I've done that as well. I have like 5 assistants right now. Cause I just got really tired of having to upload things all the time. So.
Yeah. All right. So,
Barry, you're the guinea pig.
Yeah. Barry has sent his resume through. I went ahead and took out his contact information, just we weren't like broadcasting that out. But you can see I've got a free version of ChatGPT open. I pulled open some of that AI prompt document that I had. And so we'll just show you all how we typically go through this. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to actually make this a little smaller off to the side so that we can just go back and forth between these things pretty easily. Whoop.
Tried to send you a job that I'm trying to apply for too, but
yeah, if you've got a job description, that's great. Otherwise, I was gonna pull one and find one.
Trying to send it through the chat. Evidently, I've reached a limit of some sort. I tried to cut and paste, and it wouldn't accept that. So
if you can even just send me the link to the job description, I'll just show folks how I was doing it when I was going through. If you just want to send the URL, that's perfect.
You bet. It does a pop-up though. So let's see if that takes you to where I needed to. Let's see what happens.
Ellen, is there a better way to save job descriptions? I've been copying them and putting them into Word documents, but is there a better way?
So I can show you all what I did. I think Lisa probably had a different. What I was doing, I use Evernote. So for me, because especially I know, at least in Texas, like with unemployment benefits, if any of you are collecting unemployment, you have to be able to provide proof that you were doing all the job applications you say you're doing. What I started doing is I made an Evernote notebook for myself, and I would drop in the job description. I would drop in my resume, a confirmation of my applications. You can see job search 2025. This is where I was listing everything I applied for. So here, look, there's that example for University Federal Credit Union. You can see where I took a screen capture of the job description and I loaded that in. I thought that I had added my application materials. It looks like I must have forgotten to do that. But I was basically capturing all of it so that, oh yeah, this is my confirmation that I had applied, so that I could go back in if I ever had a request for audit, like, hey, here was the job description. This is the confirmation I applied. And then I could go into my Google Drive and just pull my resume, cover letter that I used. Could obviously go into my calendar and find like the dates of the interview, things like that. So that's how I kept track of them. And I found that was helpful for myself because if I heard back and I would get an interview somewhere, then you always want to go back and look at the job description again and part of prepping for interviews. So that's how I was doing it, is I was just screen sharing or screen capturing images of the jobs I was applying for and just uploading them. But once you drop this in, I'll actually show you all and I can log back in.
And I was keeping a Google spreadsheet and I linked to I was linking to the job postings And I also was saving like the contact name and like all these. I had this big, very robust spreadsheet. So
Yeah.
I was a little intense, but also, you know, it was helpful too if Texas Workforce Commission ever asked for
Yeah.
it. It was ready to go.
Yeah. And I will say, if you drop the job description in ChatGPT, if you're working on a paid, or even I think if you make an account where you log in, you can go back through your history. And so sometimes I would also go back through, like, before I had figured out I needed to be screen capturing, I actually applied for a job at University of Texas, and I did not screen capture. And by the time I got an interview, they had pulled the job posting down, and I had a heart attack moment of like, oh my God, I didn't save that
What
job
was
description.
it?
Yeah, and I searched for it in my ChatGPT and was able to find it in there because I had loaded and fed it into the system. So it's kind of an added backup if you need it, but I definitely recommend capturing them just because you never know when they're going to pull the job posting down.
That happened with me too with my current role at Epicor. Like right before I started, I was like, oh, I want to revisit my role just to like be sure I'm not missing anything. And I was like, oh my God, they've taken it down. What do I do? And again, same thing. It was in my ChatGPT history. So I just like searched Epicor and I was like, oh, there it is. And I didn't have to search very far because I had this long history of chatting with it to prep for interviews and stuff. I was just like, hey, can you pull in that chat? I was like, can you pull up the job role again? I need to review it. And then it was like, boop, like so easy.
Cool. Okay, so I'm going to go through and just show you all the sequence that I was using as I was doing job search. And I'm trying to keep an eye on the clock because I do have a hard stop at 11:30. So what we'll do, let me go ahead. I'm going to actually go through. I actually built this thing out in like a series of sequences for myself so that I could see kind of over time use like in this specific sequence. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go in ChatGPT and I'm going to drop in my first prompt. This is around ATS. So I tell it, please act as an ATS, check this resume for compatibility, provide optimization recommendations as needed. So in this instance, the template that I built out for myself, I wanted to attach it as a Word document, just knowing specifically that that's how I'm going to be uploading it into the systems. So what I'm going to do here is actually attach, I have to do it from a login. Let me do this real quick, and then we can log back out to show the free version. It should work the same way regardless for this one because this is a pretty basic prompt. So we drop that in there. I'm going to upload that file. And we'll input it, and I'll show you the kind of feedback that it was giving. This was actually one of the first things I did as I was kicking off my job search. So we went ahead and dropped it in. It's now going through and it'll tell you, like, here's the things where it's strong, clear job titles and progression, quantified results, chronological formats. Next, it gets into file format. So it's saying like docs or PDF. You're good here, but keep in mind some may struggle with the formatting. So what it'll start to do is it'll give you things that you can look at of trying to fix. Now, again, this is like grain of salt. You may or may not want to do some of these things. It caught in here that I had taken out Barry's contact information. So it picked up on that, called out, you want to make sure your contact information's in there. It's talking about some keywords that may be important depending on the job description. Inconsistent formatting. So it's picking up that there might be some uneven spacing or some of the bullet points might differ slightly. What I did when I was going through this stuff is basically use this to make myself a checklist of things to try and just optimize the formatting on my resume. You don't necessarily have to do all of it, but it's just really giving yourself kind of a general check. So it's saying, like, in terms of just overall ATS score, before versus after optimization, this is what it's predicting. So current resume at 70%, formatting compatibility, medium, etc. And it's giving what it thinks if you were to make some of those changes you might be hitting at. So this is just something like you can consider kind of going through and creating a checklist or something off of this and shifting some of those changes. I'm going to log back out and we're going to use some of those other prompts just to show you all kind of the process that I was using off of this. So the next one, what I'm actually going to do is do the job description intake. So I'm going to go in and tell it, this is that same prompt we used in the example earlier. I need you to play the part of the hiring manager, help me get this resume and cover letter drafted up. Now, what I typically do when I'm submitting information or materials, I typically try to make sure that I'm using some sort of an indicator that like, hey, here's where the job description begins. So you can see I've got these 2 stars, job description in the middle of them. And then I've left a placeholder here for the job description. So we're going to go into that job description that Barry sent through.
And Ellen, I want to point one thing out here that you're doing. Notice how she's copying and pasting it in. If you just give the link to the job description, sometimes that won't work. And that's something I've seen people do when they use this. They'll just pop the link in. It's not as accurate. Your best bet is always to copy and paste like Ellen's doing. And this is something we've tested out and we found it to be not great. So copy and paste is the best way to go.
Yep. So I went ahead, I just dropped it in there, and I'm going to go ahead and hit submit. So it is now processed. I can see I've gotten that confirmation message. It's reviewed the job description. It's identified the name of the company. It's also noting that this is in particular in a partnership. So now it's asking that it can start to help us craft that resume and cover letter. So what I would do next is I'm going to actually go in and go to my next one where I want a tailored resume. And I'm going to just pick this one up because I've already tested and crafted this over time. So now I'm saying, okay, I want you to review the resume below as if you were the hiring manager. And I've left a placeholder here because it's going to change. So we'll say channel account manager, West region. And I say, provide feedback on how well it aligns with the job description, specific improvements to tailor it, any suggestions, etc. We've got the whole thing about don't lie. And from here, I'm going to go in and actually just pick Barry's resume up. And I'm going to do the same thing where I'm going to copy and paste this in. And I'm going to go ahead and submit it. Now, the results or the output may vary. The typical format I was finding is it usually tells you what's good, and then it will give you opportunities for where it thinks you can improve. So it might give you some recommendations for like, hey, you may want to tailor your title and headline.
Right.
It may call out some things of like, hey, this summary is pretty good, but you might want to try to update it a little bit to focus on, and it'll give you some suggestions. It might also give you some specifics on the bullet points. So keywords that it's picking up on as if it was a hiring manager or an ATS system that you might want to play into further.
Ellen, you built this in ChatGPT?
So these are just off my prompts that I had developed over time. Okay. But all of this is coming through in ChatGPT. Okay. Where it's giving suggestions. Outside of this, basically, usually it will follow up with some sort of like, okay, do you want to move forward with these changes? Let's pretend for the sake of speed on this example that there wasn't anything in here that was like a major red flag. So I'm going to go ahead and just tell it like, yes, go ahead and update my resume with these changes. So I'm going to go ahead and send it through. But again, I'm telling it to maintain call outs of any type of key statistics if I already have them. I'm noting, I actually found out in the job process and talking to some recruiters, they were recommending bolding any type of key work experience or stats that recruiters might find relevant. That was something different than the last time I was in the job market. So if I've asked it to go ahead and note those things in bold so that I can bold them on my resume, that was the thing that I added over time just through experimentation. So we're going to go ahead and hit submit.
And I've heard mixed things on that. So, you know, that can be a personal choice. Because if you have a lot of formatting in your resume, that can be distracting. So you kind of have to look at your resume and the formatting you have and then make that decision. But if you have like a lot of formatting and like special headers and stuff, then that may not be something you want to do.
Awesome. So we went ahead and I told it to go ahead and update the resume. now it is going through and it's updating it, ATS optimized, and it's basing it based on the job description. So this is where that human in the loop piece becomes particularly important. And the way that I kind of did this process for myself of trying to keep an eye on making sure is that I actually updated my resume in sections. So let's pretend that I'm Barry. I might go through and say, hey, it's recommended that for kind of this title piece here on my resume that I make some updates. So maybe I want to go ahead and say like, yep, I'm going to lift some of those into here. And I'm going to add in about channel account management director, but maybe I don't want to say channel sales director for this particular role. Like, let's just say they say, hey, that's not accurate. I can take that out. Or I say like, obviously that was breaking onto 2 lines, and for efficiency, I want it to be a little more formatted. I might decide to do something like channel account manager and sales director. And I do it that way. So there's some ways of like, you have ability to kind of adjust based on accuracy. Now I might go through here and let's say I pick this up and I decide, okay, I'm going to implement this into my resume. And maybe I go through and I copy and paste some of this. But let's say I'm looking at it and I say, hey, this thing says 20 plus years, but I actually have 25 years. I might tweak and adjust that, etc. So it's going section by section, looking at things, adding them in, deciding what's working, what's not. Is this accurate? Maybe as I'm pulling in these bullets, for example, I say, hey, these last 2 bullets aren't accurate. I don't necessarily want those, or I need to tweak the language on it. So typically what I would do is I would go through and kind of implement on a section by section basis. And then what I usually do once it's done, because we're going to use this as a next step, right? Chunking it out. I might go ahead. Let's just pretend that I've gone through and I've applied all these updates. I've decided what I'm comfortable with. I'm going to go through and actually tell it, here is my updated resume. So it now knows these are the changes that I've made. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy and paste the resume in again. Now, the one thing to watch out for is it's going to continue, it'll give you recommendations until the cows come home. So at some point, you've got to decide when are you satisfied with the level of edits and when is it good enough for what you're applying for. So it's looking at it again. It's noted like, hey, we still have some feedback. It may even just give you revisions. I sometimes will look at this and just see if it comes up with anything else that it is suggesting that I should do, and you can apply it. If you decide like, hey, that's it, I'm good with the version I had, you can just say like, hey, I'm ready to move forward with the cover letter based on what I had. So I'm going to let it continue running. And then I'll even show you how I would do that.
And one thing I would add here, those of you that build out the AI assistant, the difference here for those that build the AI assistant is where Ellen here is putting in all the different prompts. If you've built out the AI assistant, then usually what happens is you give it the prompt and say, analyze my fit. It analyzes your fit. And then you look at it and go, okay, yeah, I think I'll make some changes to my resume. And then you upload the revised resume versus having to upload your current resume because it's already saved in the back end. So you upload the revised resume once you've done that, and then it just analyzes that one and you go, yay. And then it'll ask you, generally it asks you, do you want to make a cover letter now? And then you can say, yeah, I'm ready. So that's kind of one of the differences. So it's just, one is the back end is already done for you, and one is a more front end work. So, but you're still essentially doing all the same things. You just already built the prompt. That's all.
Exactly. And you can see, as Lisa was just mentioning, it went ahead and it went ahead and noted that. So I might even just go through and say like, yeah, help me draft a cover letter. And I'm going to give it specific directions. I want it to reference the resume, position me as qualified. I want a little bit of personality, but I want to remain professional. This is another one I'm going to go ahead and show you. And I think we were going to cover cover letters in an upcoming session, but you'll see it'll start to kind of take a stab at this. So this is the piece, and we'll get into this in future sessions, but this is another one of those pieces of like, you have to really like put your thinking cap on again and start thinking through, like, does this accurately represent me? Do I like the tone of voice within this? I will tell you, the common phrase that I kept getting for a while out of ChatGPT was every single cover letter was starting with, I am excited to apply for, insert the name of the role. And I have to imagine if it's doing that for me, it was doing it for everybody under the sun. So you really want to pay attention, especially like in those opening paragraphs of your cover letter, to make sure that like your experience, who you are, is coming through, because that's how you're going to help stand out, knowing that other job seekers are using these tools as well. And so if everyone's submitting things that look bland and the same, like, you've still got to figure out how to infuse that personality in there. And we'll get into that in upcoming sessions. I'm going to go ahead and stop here, and I guess we can go back. I know that we've got a couple minutes left. This was kind of everything that we had in terms of what we were covering today. And I want to make sure that we have time if there's any additional questions. And also, we would love feedback from you all on this session if you have time. So what we've included here was links to QR codes. If you would like to connect with us on LinkedIn, please do. We would love to continue conversations, continue to connect. We are also going to be offering some additional things through CollabX. We just started this recently, but the goal is to continue to try and help support job seekers, knowing that we've both been in this very recently and felt like we had some things to share, but also we're trying to give back after a lot of people helped us in our job search. And then this last QR code over here on the right is for an actual survey for CollabX. We don't have our email set up yet, but if you would like to join our email going forward for any future events, we're also going to be working to get that set up sometime soon. So we would love to have you all at future events. In addition
we
to what we're
actually
here with Launchpad.
Yes, we actually have another series of events that some of you might be interested in. I believe Shannon mentioned this earlier, that we also partner with Austin Women in Technology. And we have an upcoming series of events with them starting the fourth Tuesday of every month, called Tactic Tuesdays. And we'll be working on different things from, working on your resume, AI tools, interview practice, and also just learning from each other. Because some of the most valuable things that Ellen and I got during our job search was just learning from one another and picking up different tips and tricks. So highly recommend, check that out. If you go to Austin Women in Technology's website, they have a list of events there and you can register. We would love to see you there. And you can also follow CollabX on LinkedIn and get all the latest and greatest there as well. Any questions or anything?
Thanks for letting me be the guinea pig.
Yeah,
Thank you for being the guinea pig.
Lisa, would you mind going back and showing us how to copy information from the ChatGPT so we can put it into a Word doc or a Google Doc?
Yeah, let me just show you. Are you
Because
talking about?
I think I'm a little bit confused about the symbols in ChatGPT.
Oh, you're talking about the information that it outputs?
Yeah, after it outputs the information, then copying it into a Word doc so that you can edit it, whatever.
Yeah, so it's really just a copy paste function. So let's just say, for example, like this one, it's the same as if you were working in a word processor. I'm going to go to that section of the resume, regional channel sales manager. You just highlight and you're just going to go ahead and copy and paste that information in. So it works just.
I was talking about at the very bottom of the output, there are symbols. One is looks like a paper. There's 3 symbols.
These ones?
Yes.
Yes. So this copy function allows you to copy the output from ChatGPT. I don't personally use it because you all can see like this one. Would you like this in a downloadable format? Blah, blah, blah. I stopped using the copy function because it introduces risk that you are going to show your hand. Not that it's bad to be using AI, right? But you don't want this type of copy going into updates that you're making. If you click this, and I'm going to show you just as an example. So I just clicked copy. Let's say I go in and I go to input this into the resume that Barry had shared with me. It is literally taking everything that it just output at the end of that cover letter and just dropped it in, including that language. And I just think it introduces risk that you're going to accidentally leave that in. I also think it introduces higher potential you're going to miss something that maybe you didn't like or didn't want or needed to edit. So that's why I personally just go element by element, or even within cover letters, for example, I would go one paragraph at a time. Copy the paragraph, drop it in, make some edits, go to the next one, make some edits, things like that. Just for safety, because sometimes I think it's easier to overlook stuff if you do it all at once.
I think Ellen said she had a hard stop at 11:30.
Yeah, I have to go to another call. This other piece is called Canvas, just to give you all one quick. What this does is it actually allows you, if you click to go into Canvas, it will open up the output into a Canvas document, and you can go in and actually, like, let's say you specifically didn't like this sentence. You could go in and give the ChatGPT feedback on that specific sentence. It's blocking me right now because of my Grammarly. I'd have to turn that off. We could cover that in an upcoming session as well, if that's helpful.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go ahead and drop off, but thank you, everyone. It was great getting to present. We'll be at upcoming sessions, as this is part of a 3-part series, and looking forward to connecting further.
Thanks, Ellen.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so
Super job.
Thanks, guys. Bye.